The room went quiet right after my nephew said it. "Grandma says you were the trial child." Laughter burst out around the table, forks clinking, wine glasses shaking, but I couldn't breathe. My smile froze, my chest tightened, and across from me, my mother didn't laugh at all. She just stared at her plate. And in that exact second, I knew this wasn't a joke. Something ugly had just slipped out. But to understand how I ended up sitting at that Sunday dinner, feeling like my entire childhood had been put on display as a punchline, I need to take you back. Because this story didn't start with a kid's careless comment. It started decades earlier, with me. And trust me, you're going to want to hear what happened next. Growing up, I always knew I was different in my family. Not in a dramatic Cinderella way, more like a quiet, constant imbalance I could never quite explain. I was the oldest, the first grandchild, the one everyone said my parents learned on. And from as far back as I can remember, I was the one who had to be understanding. Let your sister have it, she's younger. You're more mature, you'll be fine. You're strong, you don't need as much. If you're the oldest, you probably already know how this goes. But at the time, I didn't question it. I just absorbed it, like that was my role. My sister, Emily, came 3 years after me. She was softer, louder, needier. And somehow everything in our house slowly began orbiting around her. When I got a B on a math test, my dad sighed and said, "You can do better." When Emily got a B, my mom taped it to the fridge. When I cried, I was too sensitive. When Emily cried, someone rushed in with ice cream. And if I ever dared to point it out, the response was always the same. "Stop being dramatic. You're imagining things. We love you both the same." Have you ever been told that so many times you start wondering if you're the problem? That was my childhood. And here's the thing, I wasn't a bad kid. I worked hard, I followed rules, I stayed quiet when things hurt. I learned early that love in our house felt conditional. I didn't know it then, but I was training myself to accept being second. Fast forward to adulthood, and I did what a lot of oldest kids do. I left. College in another state, then a job even farther away. I built a life where no one compared me to anyone else, where I wasn't the example or the test run. I thought I'd outgrown all of it. But family has a way of pulling you back in. Sunday dinners started again when my parents retired. Big family meals, laughter, stories, kids running around. On the surface, it looked warm and healthy. And I wanted that. I really did. At those dinners, Emily was still the golden child. She talked, everyone listened. She complained, everyone sympathized. She joked, everyone laughed. I was present. Have you ever been in a room full of people who love you and still felt invisible? That's how it felt. But I tolerated it because that's what I'd always done. Until that night. It was just another Sunday. Roast chicken, mashed potatoes. My nephew, Liam, was 8 years old. Sharp, curious, brutally honest in the way kids are when they repeat things they shouldn't. We were talking about school. Liam was whining about a science project. "I hate experiments," he groaned. "They always mess up." Emily laughed and said, "Well, mistakes happen. That's how you learn." Then Liam looked straight at me. "Like Auntie," he said brightly. "Grandma says she was the trial child." The table erupted. "Oh my God," my uncle laughed. "Kids say the wildest things," my aunt added. But I didn't laugh. Because my mother didn't deny it. She didn't smile, she didn't joke it off, she didn't even look at me. She just sat there, silent. That's when I felt it, that cold, sinking feeling in your stomach when something clicks into place. If this was just a joke, why wasn't she correcting him? I forced a laugh because everyone was watching. "Trial child," I said lightly. "What does that mean, buddy?" Liam shrugged. "Grandma said you were the one they practiced on before getting it right with Mom." Another wave of laughter. Except this time, I felt something else too. Anger. Not explosive anger, something sharper. Something that made me want answers. If you were in my shoes, would you have brushed it off? Or would you have noticed the silence? That night, I barely slept. I replayed moments from my childhood I'd long buried. Times I'd been punished harshly for things Emily got a pass for. Times I'd been told no while she was told later. Times my parents admitted, casually, that they had been too strict with me. Was that what this was? Practice? The next morning, I called my mom. "Hey," I said, trying to sound casual. "Quick question. What did Liam mean by trial child?" There was a pause. Too long. "Oh," she said finally. "You know, just a figure of speech." "A figure of speech," I repeated. "So you didn't say it?" Another pause. "Well," she sighed, "you were our first. We didn't always know what we were doing." My jaw tightened. "That's not what he said." "He's a child," she snapped suddenly. "You're reading too much into it." There it was. The deflection, the irritation, the way the conversation always turned into me being the problem. But this time, I didn't let it go. "Did you treat me differently than Emily?" I asked. Silence. That silence told me everything. "I did the best I could," she said eventually. "You were strong. You didn't need as much." I ended the call politely, calmly. Then I cried in my car for 20 minutes. Not because of what she said, but because of what she didn't. She didn't deny it. And once that door opened, I couldn't close it again. I started noticing things I'd ignored for years. How my parents helped Emily with a down payment, but couldn't afford to help me when I bought my place. How they babysat her kids every weekend, but were too tired when I asked once. How family stories always painted Emily as the success and me as the cautionary tale. That's when I realized something terrifying. This wasn't just emotional. It was financial. And I had a feeling it was going to get worse. A few months later, my dad got sick. Nothing sudden, nothing dramatic, but serious enough that conversations about the future started happening. Wills, assets, the house. We were all sitting in the living room when my mom casually said, "Of course, Emily will take over the house one day." Of course. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so predictable. "What about me?" I asked. She blinked, genuinely confused. "Well, you're independent." There it was again. Strong, independent, conveniently excluded. That night, I did something I'd never done before. I stopped assuming, and I started asking questions. Quiet ones, strategic ones. I spoke to my dad privately. I asked about the will, about how things were divided. He hesitated, avoided eye contact. That's when I knew. Something wasn't right. So I did what no one expected me to do. I hired a lawyer. Not to fight. Not yet. Just to understand. And what I found out changed everything. You see, years earlier, when my grandparents passed away, there was an inheritance. Not huge, but significant. And guess who it went to? Not Emily. Me. Because I was the first grandchild. Because I was responsible. But I'd never seen a cent. According to the documents, my parents had been holding it in trust, using it, for years, to help Emily. Her education, her wedding, her house, all justified as family expenses. And suddenly everything made sense. The guilt, the silence, the narrative. I wasn't just the trial child. I was the funding source. My hands shook as I read the paperwork. If you were me, what would you have done? Confront them immediately? Walk away forever? Or wait, and make sure the truth landed exactly where it hurt? I waited. The next Sunday dinner came around. Same table, same laughter. Different me. Halfway through the meal, my mom raised her glass. "To family," she said, "and to everything we've built." I smiled. Then I stood up. "Actually," I said, voice steady, "there's something I need to clear up." The room froze. I looked at my nephew first. "Liam," I said gently, "remember when you said I was the trial child?" He nodded. "Well," I continued, eyes never leaving my parents, "turns out I wasn't just the practice run." Confusion rippled through the room. I was the investment. My mom's face drained of color. I explained, calmly, factually. Every dollar, Every document, every choice. Silence swallowed the table. Emily stared at our parents. Is that true? My dad couldn't speak. My mom whispered, "We meant to tell you." I nodded. I know. And then I did the one thing no one expected. I'm not here to take it back, I said. I'm here to take control. I slid the legal papers across the table. The trust is mine. And starting today, it's closed. No yelling, no screaming. Just consequences. The aftermath was messy, emotional, painful. But you know what? For the first time in my life, I wasn't invisible. I wasn't the trial child. I was the one who stopped the cycle. And I walked away with something better than money. I walked away with my self-respect. So tell me, if you were in my shoes, would you forgive them? Or would you finally choose yourself, like I did?